call the Amherst School District Board meeting to order at 6:06. And we'll start with announcements and principals' reports. Porter, if you could go first, that would be great.
All right. Try to look for something. One of the things I was asked to speak on would be the gym floor. I know that's an issue that's also on here, so I thought if that was all right, I'd talk a little bit about that. First off, I want to thank John Robichaud and for being very involved with this in Roger Langley.
Can you just move it towards you? Thanks, Porter.
Right. And for being very involved with the floor. We ran into a little glitch, as I mentioned in my report, with material coming up out of the seams, and I met with John today, and I have something I'd like to let the board have. The term is called polyballs, and it's very common with floors that are put in with gymnasiums, especially in non-climate controlled areas. Initially, I was very worried, as I know Peter was. Peter came over many times to look at it as well. We kept having basically glue come up between the seams in the form of little balls, and they had to be cut off and then wiped down with mineral spirits to keep them from becoming very large. Roger Langley went on vacation for a week, and some of them came up pretty large, and we kept thinking, well, this shouldn't be. But after looking at the reports and went online, and John sent me some links, we realized that most of the places today have gymnasiums that are actually climate controlled in some form or another, and ours isn't. So these balls that are coming up, it's the difference in the humidity and the expansion and of the joints that are putting their seams that go down every few feet, and they're expansion joints basically. And when they squeeze together, it pushes that. It's basically a glue that comes out. There are fewer and fewer of them. There are fewer and fewer of them now, which is great. We started off with lots of them. Roger Langley really needs to be commended for spending hours taking care of this floor, making sure that nobody steps on it, because if you were to step in it, and Peter was over here last week taking a look at it, if you were to step on one of those and break it, it basically sends a glue out onto the floor, and the footprint that you're on will go and mark all over the floor. So that hasn't happened. Roger's very careful. He knows where the seams are. I am too. I check it every morning with him. There are fewer and fewer, and our plan is to open first day of school with it. It might require an early check in the morning before school starts to check for any areas. I think John said he found 5 today, which is wonderful. If we have 5, we can handle that, and they were very small. Again, the weather will start to change a little. We couldn't have asked for a more difficult summer as far as the weather and the hot conditions and things in there. So once we get to the fall, we're very confident. And if you take a look at this, I won't insult you with it, but it clearly talks about the fact that our conditions are not optimal because it is very poor ventilation in our gym, as we all know. But the floor looks beautiful, and our plan is to open up and be ready.
So it's not affecting the finish at all?
Oh, no.
Okay.
It could, that if we let anybody step on it right now without those, because as I said, it's sort of like stepping on something in your foot, gum, or anything, and it tracks it in. But we'll be ahead of it, and my plan is to be ready to go.
And once the glue finishes curing,
it will not be a problem. In fact, it's kind of good in a way, if you think about it, that glue's coming up. That means they've got plenty of it in there, because this floor is going to last us another 40 years. That's our plan. So, any other questions about the gym floor? You're certainly welcome to come and take a peek, but we're not letting anybody walk on it. I mean, you could come out with us to take a look, but I don't think it's necessary at this stage.
Thanks. Thank you.
Does anyone have any? Go ahead.
Well, no, I apologize. I was trying to send a message to Betty about something else, so I didn't have it up right here. And I believe that one of the other things that I really wanted to talk a little bit about besides the gym floor, if we could just move the other up toward the top. Oh no, I'm sorry, you were at the top. Pardon me. Just mentioning in there about my emergency training. That was an exciting training that I got a chance to bring back. A lot of materials, lots and lots of materials for our emergency management team, and we'll be working on that in the fall. We realized that I have to say, Sauhegan High School sent members as well, John Smith and Peter Gagnon. We learned a great deal, but we also learned how far ahead we are of other school districts too as well. Not all of them, but a lot of them, which made us feel really good. We're doing a lot of really good things. A person that has worked with us over the years many times, Greg Champlin, is now working with FEMA. He used to be emergency management up here in New Hampshire, so we knew him and we worked with him in the past. So it was a really good week of training. So,
Great.
and then if I could, just a little bit about the Makerspace,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there's some questions for the public about that. Jerry, if you could go down just a little bit further toward the Makerspace.
Second page.
Yes. We've been working, as the board's aware and the public's aware, we've been working with the Town of Amherst Recreation Department, Greg Fraley, who's come here a couple of times to talk. We are really excited about our Makerspace movement. It's really kicking off, and I have to give the credit to Brad Freeman, who is often here filming. He's our IT specialist, and he has just run with this. And Steve Opry, my Innovation Design Lab coordinator teacher, has been instrumental in really making this lab just up to date. It's getting better and better by the moment. I invite again any of you to come in and see it, even if the last time you saw it, it is just really something. And we're working on a few safety issues. These are for our children, don't forget, and the adults, but the safety issues around some of the equipment that hadn't been used in a long time, and we regret that. But now we're ready to use it. In some of those cases, we're looking at getting them brought up to code safety-wise. Particular brakes on the equipment, things that stop more quickly in that. Old days, somebody got hurt. Oh, boy, isn't that too bad? Today, they're very, very safe. And the equipment is there, and the base equipment is awesome. It just needs to be updated a little bit on some of our safety switches and things like that. We're working on that ventilation, moving them over to some of the equipment. But that's growing fast. We have a group of engineers. I wish I could tell you exactly how many, but I believe there are 8 town engineers and excited people involved with this that are helping to design everything from the doorways in and the security systems so that we don't have to worry, taxpayers will not have to worry about equipment being stolen or anything like that. Isolating from the rest of the school. We've got on camera. It's going to be state of the art. We're really excited about this.
So is there, that I was going to ask about all that you just mentioned. Is there then also like somebody on location that's kind of monitoring what's going on, that's volunteering to do it, or is it just open for people?
It's not open yet. At certain points, the Makerspace units can possibly be, and the plan would be that under camera, of course, people would have to, they just can't get in. They have to have registered with the recreation department. They pay a monthly fee to be able to use it. They're checked out on the equipment. The equipment will actually have, these guys and gals are working on just some neat ideas I never thought of, in which if I tried to just give them a piece of equipment I wasn't checked out on, oops, sorry, I have to scan my card, shows whether I've been able to use that equipment yet, so I just can't pick up a welder and start, going crazy or whatever. No fun. So we're really working on that idea. They're doing some wonderful things way ahead of whatever I thought in the beginning we were going to do. And we'll give a full report on that once we get up and running with all this stuff. We're going to presentation. Brad Freeman is going to put together a video for the first day of school for all of the teachers and everything to see the things that have morphed out of what used to be your typical shop class. It's really exciting. And I do again invite you to come down. I know all of you stopped in to check it out, and we thank you for that. But it's getting better each time I go in. I see it. It's a little cleaner. It's a little neater. Things are around there. They move machinery around, so it's closer to where it needs to be. Put a lot of time into design. And again, Brad really needs to, and of course Bruce Shackman has helped with that as well, and John Robichaud has helped with giving us the people and the manpower to move things around. So it's been a real joint effort of all the departments.
Yeah, let us know when it's ready, and I'd like to come over and see the finished product.
Awesome. Glad to.
Thank you. All right, did anyone else have any questions for Porter? Go ahead.
Just enrollment?
Yes. Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, no.
It's off. I apologize.
It is?
Yes, it is, and I apologize. When I asked for the report, Ann Daniel was not around, and so Ann, when I asked Robin to get me the numbers, and the numbers that she had given me were numbers that were there from a report that was not our report. I apologize on that. But we're still looking very well. I have the new numbers for you, and I brought those. We're at 615 currently as of today, with 2 more, so we'll be at 617 tomorrow. That's from 591.
And the next day will be at...
Well, tomorrow, we know of 2 that are coming that called today. However, tomorrow is our registration day. We're hoping even to get a few more. This is pre-registration, although because it's a running registration, I assume. The net total about 30 kids that we've gained.
Great.
So we're really excited. So 617 right now. I'm hoping for even more, but 591 was what we budgeted for, so that's really, really, really excited about that. And I do apologize for giving those wrong ones, but that was actually last year's report that had been given to her. So.
Do you know what Vern's enrollment looks like in grades 6 and 5?
Not off the top of my head, I don't, Jim.
That's right.
I think they're very consistent right now, though. I'm pretty sure they're consistent. So I want to say probably in the low 30s.
That's what I would
I
say
think
too.
that's about right, low
Yeah.
30s, because we do have 4 teachers,
Okay.
2 in the 2
Yep.
and 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
High
small
20s,
classes,
low 30s.
but
Yeah.
too many kids for one class and
Right. It's one
small
of those
classes
tweeners.
for
It's
2.
tough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Great. Thank
Porter,
you.
Could,
Go ahead.
Porter, could I ask you to talk just briefly about, I know we've talked about just using the technology you have for 8th graders a little bit differently this year?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Um,
I apologize. I can't see the screen, so I'm looking at. No, that's okay. That's fine. No, I'm fine now because I think I'm all done with that. Yes, one of the we've been working, of course, with the help of the board and with Bruce Chakrin and the SAU. We have been trying to increase our technology, our output, our connectivity. And this year we were planning on putting a computer in each of the 8th grade classrooms. A classroom set in each classroom in grade 8. And as we started talking in the summertime, we realized, wait a minute, if we've got those computers in the classroom, we've got 24 kids and 24 computers in those classrooms, why not look at a one-to-one? Initially to start as a pilot. Things like that should be started as a pilot. You don't know what the glitches and things that are going to get there. So we worked again with Brad, and we brought all of our tech people in. We worked with Bruce Chakrin. Adam attended one of them, give us some support in technology, and we realized we have the numbers. So what our plan is to start the school off with those 24 in the classroom as normal, but at some point during the first trimester, hopefully, we would like to then assign those computers to an 8th grade student. They would not take them home, but they'd get theirs in the morning, they'd log in, and they'd have those computers during the day. A great pilot, in my opinion, and others' opinion, to get us used to having that, children having a computer with them going class to class, not having to go and grab a charged one out of the cart every time we start. They would take that with them at the end of the day. They'd sign back in. Charging stations in the school, we've already looked at that, so they will be able to charge them maybe before lunch. The kids can put them in there, go to lunch, go to specials. If their special requires it, they can take the computer with them. But at the end of the day, they'd all be signed back in. And I just believe firmly that this is a great opportunity. This is a tremendous class technologically. They've been really, the 7th graders, they did an awful lot with technology, and I think they're ready. And so we're excited to try this. We'll keep you informed as we go along. We've looked at a lot of the logistics of it. Will there be more screens breaking, those kind of things? We'll have to look at that. Our kids are savvy and more savvy than I am. And I know they understand the respect for the technology and that. We've seen that already with our iPads and the equipment that we have in the classrooms. Every classroom right now has a minimum 3 to 5 computers in there, and those are laptops as well as regular computers, and they have not been broken or abused. Our kids are fantastic, and I think this is a great time for us to try it. Yeah. And we're not asking for any extra money to do this, so we'll make it work, and if it doesn't, we'll report that it didn't. But
so you're starting with laptops, you said, right?
Laptops, yes.
Yeah.
And again, 24 for each of the classes. I would also like to add that this is going to be a great, as I put in my report, there's another advantage to this that is less seen but very important to us, and that is that when we test every year, with SBAC testing and EWA testing, we have to pull computers from all over the place and put them together and move the kids in the labs and move them out of the labs. And it's a real struggle for the groups that are doing their research papers during that time or whatever. With this format that we have now, every 8th grader will have a computer, so when they take all their SBAC testing, that won't impact anybody else. Then the 7th grade, each team will have 2 portable laptop cards. So it'll be a 2-to-1 ratio for every 7th grader. In the 6th grade, because our teams are 2, we have 1 cart for each team, so it'll be a 2-to-1. So basically, grade 8 will be a 1-to-1, and the rest of the school will be a 2-to-1 ratio of laptops. And again, we won't be having the 1-to-1 with the grade 7 and 6 and 5 that yet. We'll pilot it with the 8th grade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Look forward to hearing how that goes.
No, go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So my question is, Peter, do you know what, relative to what Porter was talking about, do you know if the, I don't know what it would be, the Invest subcommittee or whatever, have they talked about computing as part of the strategic plan? And I know some school systems have, every kid has a computer from the school system. Is that something that we've talked about in that committee, like how?
They haven't yet,
No.
but this is a nice opener. The Porter's doing at the middle school to have that as a pilot. We haven't gotten to those conversations on Invest yet. I think they're coming for sure, and I know Bruce has been talking a lot about 1-to-1. And I'm going to ask Bruce to share what he, when we went to ISTE this summer, the International Society for Tech Ed conference, there's a lot there about 1-to-1. So we'll be talking about that. We haven't begun that conversation, but I'm thankful that Porter and his school and team are doing this. I think it's a good start for that conversation.
I was thinking though with Bruce, is his thought process BYOD or Lend-Lease or a combination? Do we know?
I think a combination is what we're thinking. The most important thing I think with a 1-to-1 is it's not just giving a student a computer to say, okay, we're 1-to-1. There's a lot of professional development that goes into staff as well. There was probably about 10 years ago, or a little bit longer, there was a 1-to-1 initiative in the state of New Hampshire, and some school districts received MacBooks, Mac computers, and the whole initiative failed because it was here's a laptop and you can use it in your classroom, but there was no professional development about operational how we use those. So we want to make sure that this is part of our plan in our pilot to show staff will need to know how to use those in a classroom when 24 kids have laptops. So.
And that is in our plan. We've already targeted time each month for the training of the teachers for that, because we wouldn't just dump that on them, even though they're very technologically savvy as well. So that is very important. And Bruce and I have talked a lot about, to your question, about BYOD. High school pretty much, I think, is at that point. In most cases, a lot of classes will say to the kids, hey, if you've got them, you can take them out. That's a great thing. Middle school, a little bit tougher, I think, in some cases, because some children at that age don't have that, and we certainly wouldn't want it to be a situation where some kids have it and some don't. But this is a great start for us to see. I really believe, and I've been doing a lot of work with this over the last couple of years, I really believe that our children at the middle school level, and maybe grade 5 might be a little bit iffy for some parents, but I think you get a middle school child, and I believe that if they're taught how to use that computer, they're taught about good citizen respect for computers, I think that we're not going to see serious problems, and some people think, oh, everybody's going to be online doing bad things. We don't see that now. We really don't. Our children they're raised well. It's like anything, it can be abused, but a kid can still write on a piece of paper something terrible if they want to. So the technology is not going to be the problem. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out, which, not only what the right ratio is and how it's going to be integrated into the curriculum and how the curriculum can be enhanced with the 1-to-1, but also what the right device is and what the turnover should be from a maintenance and support standpoint. because you're going to need some sort of consistent operating system and consistent image that needs to be able to be replicated on a regular basis, but also what's best? Is it a Surface like you guys are using today, or is it an IBM ThinkPad? Is it that's probably out, I'm dating myself with that, but is it a Dell? What's it going to be, and what's the right technology to use, and how can Bruce and his team support it?
Right, and that's very important. We've been having those discussions because the novices can say that it looks very nice, but they know how it works. We're very lucky to have Brad and Corey Smith at my school, and of course Jason over here, and Dean Lipson as well. We're very lucky to have those people. They're trained on certain equipment right now. We have mostly Dells in our building, but again, we've got Lenovo's that are being used, and we've got, especially with our laptops and all those. So you're right, we have to make sure that we all decide.
The more diverse the technology platform, the more difficult and the higher level of effort it is to maintain it. Whereas if you have an image for a particular operating system and device, you usually can have that thing re-imaged up and running with someone logging in because they've saved all their stuff online, right? On their documents on the SharePoint site or what have you. You can be up and running in an hour. So you could have a completely crashed machine up and running in an hour with possibly replacing whatever memory crashed or what have you. But the point is if you have the right image and a consistent image and platform. So it ought to be interesting to see how Bruce comes up, as we go through the year, how this unfolds. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it.
Well, it's a pilot, and we're going to give it our best, and we'll certainly be very transparent about how it did or did not work.
Yeah. It's pretty great. Great to hear about it.
Great. Thank you. Jerry, did you have some things to highlight?
Sure. I don't know if there's, I guess the piece I would like to highlight, I mentioned at the beginning, is really the amount of professional development training we have had available all summer, really targeting various groups from Literacy Institute to the administrators going to Sanborn, the Competency Design Studio, the kindergarten team met, math met, science met, literacy met. There was a tremendous amount of professional development going on. I think the reason that's important is, we just alluded to how important professional development is. So I think that's, I've commented on much of the professional development that's happened. Christine obviously could go into greater detail, and I think we should even comment on the fact that we've had the assessment and grading committee break up in subgroups to do kind of a book discussion in small groups, which I think was extremely valuable for those of us that participated in that. And we have teachers beyond that group who are looking to read that book now. So I think there's a lot of interest in the professional development that we've been offering, that Christine's been coordinating. She works pretty diligently at meeting everybody's needs. So I'd say that has been extremely valuable from my perspective this summer. I think the other piece, if I could mention something, it's one of my favorites, is enrollment. I think we talk about enrollment at Clark Wilton School, and I do think I have the numbers accurate as of the 19th. So I will tell you they've gone up a little bit more, but we're also now, remember I projected we're going to start seeing move-outs. So we have gotten notified of a few move-outs. I will say we are probably a little higher than 677 now, maybe 679. But I think we should keep in mind we had anticipated about 632 to 638 students. So we are a bit above that. And an interesting tidbit is third grade has gotten one new student all summer. So the 48 students we've gotten are all dispersed between kindergarten, first, second, and fourth. Unless they show up. But, the numbers are up. I think people are comfortable, and I'll make a comment that the kindergarten team shared with us because that's a group we were just working with last week, correct, Christine? And when we were talking about the numbers, because they're all at about 21 now, their perspective was that's 21 kids for a full day. That is a lot different than 40 children in two half-day sections. So I would say their attitude was pretty upbeat, and again, we had people commenting that in other towns they have 26 to 28 children in kindergarten. I don't know how that works, but so we're pretty excited. I think the buildings look good. I think the maintenance staff should recognize the summer staff. The I'll call them the young kids. Some of them are young adults, really. They wouldn't want me to call them kids. But, really, they just hop to it with anything that needs to be done and are actually thrilled to help the teachers when they're in there setting up their rooms and that. So it makes a difference, having that extra help in the summer. I don't know that we recognize those individuals enough, but I feel like we're in good shape to start the year. I think all positions are filled. I hope after tonight all positions are filled, and we can start on a great note. So I don't know if you have any questions for me in particular, but those are the things I would mention. Obviously, we'll keep you abreast of enrollment
Yes.
each
Because
month.
we're right on the edge there with the
We are there.
kindergartners.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah. But would you agree, Christine, that the 6 kindergarten teachers all met for 3 days last week. Christine was there for the full 3 days. I was there for much of it. And I would say it was really a fantastic opportunity for the 6 of them to connect and start to work as a group. And they are all in their rooms this week setting up because they haven't been able to get in. We've had extended school year, we've had summer programming, so they really are the last group of teachers able to get into their classrooms. But again, the professional development has been extremely valuable, and the ongoing that we've already got planned during the school year for the kindergarten team to meet regularly again. All the grade levels at Wilkins will have common planning time this year. That's something we've never before been able to do. Kindergarten, we weren't quite as fortunate with that schedule, but we're going to give them a half day every month to work as a team. We'll bring substitutes in that. So I feel quite positive. Christine should feel very positive about the work she's done. And I know she's even working diligently probably when she goes home tonight on the 2-day retreat for all the administrators who will be meeting over the next 2 days. But I think it'll be a great year.
Anyone have any questions for Jerry? No?
Thank you.
Okay. So, committee reports. Before we do that, I was wondering, I know we had talked about it before, but would the principals be able to change their principals' reports to reflect the pillars? I know it's crazy beginning of the year, but maybe by October? Would you guys be able to do that?
Will we meet with you about that to see what you'd like that to look like? We've talked about it.
Okay.
So I think what, in our mind, let's say for a couple of the pillars, we're trying to envision how we will specifically respond to the connection to that pillar.
Right.
Obviously, each of
Good
us
point.
is connected to some pillars in a greater way.
Right.
But, yeah, we knew that, we're thankful it wasn't for tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
Because,
okay.
but if we could
So
maybe with our
we
next
could
meeting.
set up a time to talk about that.
Maybe even our next meeting, when
Okay.
we plan out, could we do that?
Our agenda setting meeting?
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
soon, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken. So
Okay.
that might be good then.
Yeah.
Do you find that challenging?
We can do that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you find that challenging to align the day-to-day things you have going on to the strategic plan?
I would say it's easy for me to connect it to certain pillars that I might be, but I'm not necessarily, like I would say now, I feel like I have a pretty strong sense of where Streamline has gone and where they're going because we as building administrators had to respond to their questions. Unite, which I'm part of, I would have to say we are not a united group, so that is an interesting one. I can't give you that.
Shocking.
We haven't had an opportunity to really meet as part of the
Okay.
challenge. We cannot
Right.
get the group together. That's part of the challenge. So
Okay.
I know, I think we can talk about it and see. I'd also,
Yeah.
personally, I'd like to see how we can get, I usually ask teachers if they have any input for, let's say, my reports on that. And sometimes they will. So let's say for the category we have like inspirational and effective teaching right now, I'd like to find a way we might still incorporate some of those to a particular pillar.
I agree. I want to
Yeah.
make sure we don't lose important
Right,
information.
right.
But also, we should be trying
Yeah.
to tie everything to the
Yeah.
strategic plan.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So, yeah. Okay. So with that, committee reports, does anybody have updates from their pillar committees?
Advance hasn't met.
Okay.
Connect
Advance
can't
has-
connect.
I have not heard from Invest yet.
Okay, so kind of a hiatus this summer. Or
Yeah.
Streamline has not had a hiatus. I will say.
No, they have not.
We've been meeting all summer. And as Jerry just mentioned, we are gathering information from department heads and building administrators to ask questions about how moving towards a consolidation would potentially improve the effectiveness of our schools. We're also looking at potential financial impact. We also had an initial discussion with an attorney from the Department of Education. We had some questions. It really was sort of an initial meeting, so we're sending her some questions. She's going to respond back to us, so there's a dialogue that we have started there. And we are, the warrant committee meeting for Amherst is meeting next week. So we have myself as the board representative and 2 committee members, Mark Vinson and Lucianne Folks. And Betty will be meeting to discuss that. The Streamline Committee plans to do a presentation at the SAU and the individual boards over the next month and get some feedback and look at next steps for bringing their potential proposal forward. So we've been busy.
So I want to just add briefly that our strategic plan, I think, has slowed down a little bit in some ways, and I think that's the general sense that I'm getting from some people that have worked on a committee or worked on part of the plan. That's, it's like in education we call it the J curve, so it's going to go this way, and if it stays here, it's not going to go anywhere else. But our plan tomorrow, as we retreat together, our leadership team, I want to talk a little bit about, we want to talk about internalizing the plan. So a comment was made to me at some point recently that it just seems like the plan seems like work, and it hasn't been internalized by a number of people, and I happen to agree with that. So we're gonna talk a lot about that at our meeting tomorrow and Thursday, and kind of revitalize it, because as the J curve goes down and if things stay there, they die. I want it to go back up. I think there's reasons for that. A lot of work has been done. A lot of things have been accomplished, but there are a small number of people asked to do a lot of things. And as Jerry's saying, trying to get a group together sometimes is very difficult. I'm not complaining about it or using that as an excuse, but I want to be very honest that we've got to bring that back. So we're going to do that at our leadership team retreat. We have more things coming up at our September 22nd meeting, and that's input I'm receiving from people that have been involved. And it's not a condemnation, it's more just being honest with each other about that and moving forward. So we're hearing that and we're willing to take that. And I want to talk with our leadership team to see how we can change that a little bit. But it really comes down to knowing the plan, internalizing it, and how does that, every time I hear something, how does that click into it? But just thanking everybody for the work they've done so far. We've got obviously more work to do, but over a period of time, we have to make some changes, and this is one I'd like to talk about the next 2 days. I'll report out to you guys and the other boards on the 22nd as well.
I don't know if there's a way, maybe you guys can talk about it over the next couple of days, a way to kind of break out of, in order to get people to actually be able to attend, break out of the walls of all of us physically being together. I know that you'd come up with some sort of online thing, maybe even just having a set of conference call numbers that we can work with. We don't physically have to be in person, or, different options so that people can be on business trips or, at home with their kids or whatever is needed, but make it so we can actually get together.
And get more people involved too, I think that's...
Together but not together.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Next, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak? That was yes. Here, come on up.
Talking already. I'm Milton Robinson. I'm actually a Mount Vernon resident, and I'm coming to present that there's a large interest in starting up a lacrosse team for girls and boys at the middle school. And I've done a lot of research into. There are about 10 other teams that are doing it right now. It's not recognized by the Tri-County, but I think it's close. They've been going back and forth. They're just not quite enough teams yet, but there are enough teams. Milford right now has a team, and they have a full schedule. And it was talking to their coach over there is a very successful year for them. I just think it's a booming sport right now in the state, and I think it would be great to have a team. There is plenty of kids to support the team. I know just at the 8th grade level, there were 20 that played Amherst Club Lacrosse this past year, or 7th graders moving into 8th grade, and then there was a lot more of younger kids as well. So I just think it's something that would be a real benefit to the school and the kids in the school, and another after-school activity for those kids to do, which would be great for my kid and his friends that go home and play computer games till 5 o'clock till they have practice. So it'd be nice to have something after school at that time to them. Yeah.
So, have you talked to Amherst Lacrosse Club about their endorsement or their feelings about this?
I have, and they're behind it. Last year when we were talking with as coaches, we were very interested in starting up a program like this. It might take some players from them that may not want to do that, both teams, but I don't think it would hurt them overall with their numbers. Their numbers are huge.
Okay.
We had 2 teams for the U15 team last year. So if it shrinks down to 1, I don't think they'd be too hurt about it.
Just 2 follow-up. Okay, just
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Just 2 follow-up questions.
Yes.
One is did you talk to, before Brad left the high school, did you talk to Brad Bishop about what he thought about having a middle school?
Yeah, he strongly wanted one. We were trying to see if I guess there was a group that tried last year, just really the ball didn't get moving on it. But he was one, I coached with him, so we talked about it continuing, and he was very supportive of it happening. I don't know who the new coach is going to be for the high school, but he thought it was a great idea. It's just because right now with Amherst Lacrosse, they only practice 2 times a week. U.S. Lacrosse at this age level says you should be practicing every day to develop the skills. So when you get to the high school level, you're ready to play. And a lot of our kids do because they do tomahawks as well, but it's not in a whole team concept where they're going to probably move up together. So I think it would be a great feeder for the high school as well.
And the last question obviously is the big one. Like how much is this going to cost? And
when I was talking to the athletic director, I think with everything, if I had just kind of done boys at first, but I know there's a huge interest in girls, and you should probably do both together. I think around 10. Porter, I don't know if you can give more numbers on this.
I really don't have more numbers.
Yeah, when I talked to him, it would probably for coaches, uniforms, and transportation, because if you have a girls and boys team, all of those other teams have girls and boys too, so they probably travel together. I know that's what Milford does. So I'd say probably all in all it'd be probably 10 to 12 around there, depending on transportation. It varies where you're going.
that's just for an A team, right?
Yeah, that would be for one team. None of the other teams have a B team, so I don't think that would be beneficial to have.
Does that include equipment and things like that?
Lacrosse equipment, the only thing you might have to buy is goalie equipment, but I doubt it. All lacrosse equipment that everyone has their own, for the most part. I mean, anybody that plays lacrosse has their own, and if they don't, they can get it from somebody because there's so many people that play lacrosse in this town. But yeah, the helmets are their own, the shoulder pads, everything, and stick is all, there's no equipment. It would just be uniforms. And and balls. That would be another one. But I'm sure that the Amherst Lacrosse Club would be more than willing to share their nets and things with us. But yeah, it would be balls but all the other equipment. The only thing you might have to buy is goalie equipment. But most of the goalies have their own, unless it's brand new.
So, Porter, how does it work if they're not in Tri-County, as far as whether it's a club sport or a varsity sport? Or do you expect it to be?
When we first began playing as a basketball team, we were not in the Tri-County yet. We played as a full varsity sport.
Okay.
The only thing that can happen is that you might struggle a little bit with scheduling because the team is already in the league, although, as Milt said, right now there's not an official one. I believe there's a meeting in October to try to form a Tri-County because they believe there's enough. That's what I heard most recently.
Oh, okay.
But again, no guarantees.
Right.
They're meeting on it when I talked to my AD about it. So there's a pretty good chance that schedules are not all set yet. It's a spring sport.
Right.
So in the fall, they would set the schedule. So if Amherst were to join in, club or varsity, they would try to get into some of their games because that's the bet. They're trying to look for more games, more participation. I will say Milton and some other parents have talked to me. The coach, I forget his name, but you mentioned the coach from the high school.
Brad Bishop.
Brad had talked to me a couple of years ago, and I explained to him that, listen, it needs to be grassroots. It isn't just something that I would put in. There are people that have talked about it, but we talked about club at first. The numbers are there now, and I really believe that with the popularity of lacrosse, I don't think we'd have to worry about the idea of going into club just to see if we had the numbers. That's the reason we did it in the other sports. We said, listen, we're going to show that we can get some traction with it. We're going to have enough kids. We did it with wrestling. We did it with soccer, all those. But in this particular case, there's so many kids and so many people seem to be very interested about it. Money-wise, as you asked, the costs, because it's not budgeted, if we were clearly going to do that, we'd have to look for outside sources. Even if the school, if the board were to say we're taking on as a varsity sport, we have not got it budgeted. It would have to be under the conditions that the outside sources would help to cover that. Because I don't have it in the budget.
This year.
For this year.
Yes, for this coming spring, yes. And so if it were to be done, it can be done. But and I know that there's on the girls' side. I talked to a couple of parents because I had mentioned when Amy spoke to her about it, and when I talked to Milton and some of the parents, I won't put that sport in without girls as well. It's a highly popular sport with the girls. It would be wrong to do that, but I believe we can get some donations on that end as well from some philanthropic parents in town that have helped us out in the past. There's a few people really excited about that. You can see what the high school got with the football stadium, for instance, and the turf field. People that support athletics. But we'd have to look at that. And we're at the very early stages, and I asked Milt to come speak to you first because it's something I do support, but I can't support in the budget right now. It would certainly help.
So for this calendar,
Go ahead.
you say this calendar here, right?
Right, we don't have it
Spring.
budgeted, so.
Okay, 17.
Right.
Okay. So potentially be needing to get outside funding.
Fundraise, yeah.
for
Then
this
that's
year.
what I would have planned to do because the budget's already passed.
But just for this year, so, yeah. Do you have, where are you with that? Do you have the
I have some
sources lined up?
I have some, yes, definitely. I have some sources lined up, but we're going to have to probably grassroot it and go. I don't know what you can do with like a user fee as well.
If it was adopted by the board, there would be a user fee and the rates have gone up now to $75 per person. So
Can you do like a little higher for a club sport, or is that allowed? Or because I know like at Sauhegan, like hockey is more because of money wise, and I don't know if that's possible.
We haven't done a graduated scale in the past, so again, it would be something that would be up to pleasure of the board, but, there would be, if there were 20, you mentioned, let's say there were 25 or 30, I'm not sure, how large a squad is typically?
I would say
currently?
probably 20,
Okay.
at least for the boys, probably about the same for the girls.
Right,
I
so,
would say.
if you were getting, there's a few dollars there with those 20, that helps a little bit.
Right.
And I believe on the girls' side, there is some support there too. I can't say to the numbers, because I haven't seen the numbers, I really haven't. I don't know if 10 is the real number or 12, because it's out of my league as far as that goes. But if we knew exactly and we get those numbers, then it would be easier to see, because I know there are some people who contacted me and said that they may be willing to either pick up the busing, transportation, or that kind of thing. There's some good support out there, but I can't tell you how much.
And one thing that would be nice if there is both girls and boys is that shared transportation would be big. And that's why you couldn't go too big on the teams, because you'd have to fit them all on the bus.
The other thing to think about, though, is since we have instituted the A and the B teams and having 6th through 8th grade, potentially having practice squads for kids. If we can have coaching, for younger and less experienced kids, and they wouldn't necessarily travel, but.
And I think that's what Milford did this year, but
Yep.
that's something, definitely would be open into.
We did that for several years, Amy, if you remember, with field hockey.
Yep.
We were carrying 45 girls on the
Right.
team, which was awesome.
Yep.
They played a 5th quarter.
Yep.
We just paid a little bit more for the officials because they were already traveled. And
Right.
They played a 5th quarter with the kids who didn't get in, and
Right.
for years it worked wonderfully.
Yeah.
And what did break into it? We had 2 very successful squads this year, full
Right.
squads.
Because
So-
we adopted that because, we hate to have cuts for 11-year-olds when, when they just might not have, fully developed yet. So I'd like to see us try to keep that same philosophy going forward. And, certainly not have to have the kids travel, and that's fine, but trying to be as inclusive as possible.
Those kids would be able to play ALC though, right?
Yep, they would.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's the same for soccer, too. They have that program. So, part of the reason we did that was you had kids getting cut and then giving up on a sport when they actually could have been very successful later on as they
The way
just
you
grow
could
at varying rates.
lessen the
especially in
number is
middle
make it a
school.
7th and 8th grade as well, team, and then the other kids play. Again, when you look at U.S. Lacrosse, they say 5th and 6th graders probably shouldn't be playing every day,
Yep.
where the 7th and 8th really should. So you could do it that way too, but I would be willing to do whatever.
Yeah, and it may not,
Maybe.
because this might be a pilot year, so they
Right,
might not
exactly.
be able, because we don't have the funding, so
Right.
we probably wouldn't put that pressure on you guys.
Yeah.
Since you're going to be
Yeah.
funding it, but going forward.
Yeah, I think that
I
would
think
be
we
a
wanna be
great
as
idea.
consistent as possible.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, more involved, the better.
exactly, yep.
They
Yeah.
might try out for the first time.
And doing it as a pilot year might drum up interest for the younger kids.
Oh, yeah, it will be popular.
It will be.
That's not a
Probably
concern.
the most popular sport, yeah.
Yeah.
But knowledge.
Yeah, right. So, thank you. We actually, does anyone have any more questions? Because we actually do need to have a motion on this.
We do.
Yeah. Did you have any questions?
No, my concern was
Thank
making
you,
sure there was
Thank you.
an avenue for kids who want to try it out for the first time who've never played before.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. But Jim, you were mentioning that if they were trying it out for the first time, they would probably try it out with what, ALC?
I don't know. I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah.
My thought process was more around, for that sport, the developmental appropriateness of it and other avenues. So one of the things I think in our previous discussion for going to A and B teams was around basketball, and basketball I think was one of the sports we talked about specifically, and we don't really have like a great alternative in Amherst for basketball. But the other sports we do have good alternatives. So, and with lacrosse, I know that there is developmental stages you go through. I think there probably is in soccer too, I can imagine, but where they have that outlet. But Now that I think of it, if you have lacrosse in the middle school, you may get more kids trying it out for the first time than going to Amherst Lacrosse Club. I'm not sure. How would that change the calculus of the Amherst Lacrosse Club supporting the middle school team or not?
I would say the majority of kids are going to probably play both. But if there's new kids trying out, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that would affect number-wise. I do have to say most of these kids that will try out have been playing all their lives, pretty much since 6 years old. So someone just trying out, it might be tough to make that team.
Right.
The other thing is there are other sports that they can do at the middle school as well. So that, I don't know, I don't want to steal too many of other people's sports athletes as well. I do think kids that don't make the team will play ALC. I don't think they'll just quit lacrosse in general. A good portion of the team I had last year, paid Tomahawks as well. So they probably, I think most of them want to play as much lacrosse as possible.
So what's the motion of the court?
Well, I guess we have to know if we're looking at this as a varsity or club. We need to know that at this point. And we're not funding anything at this point.
Well, then maybe
Correct.
that's your out, is that we could look into, if the board looks into varsity or club, and we report back with you with information and numbers and things, because obviously we wouldn't make that decision yet. I don't know what you'd have to say, it has to be varsity tonight, or it has to be club.
Okay.
But that's really at the board if you want to. I originally had talked to Milt, as I said, about club. But in talking to folks in town and things, I think the numbers are there. So, as I mentioned, the logic behind going to club for all the other sports that we did was because we needed to see if we had the interest. I don't think there's any doubt about that right now. But again.
So are we just looking to support a middle school lacrosse program at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it's being asked, because we're not being asked to fund anything at this
Right.
point.
So
Because we can't, really.
So what if the motion sounds like this? I'll make the motion. What if we make I'm making a motion to support a 1-year 2016-2017 pilot for a girls and boys middle school, a single girls and boys middle school lacrosse team.
Do you want to put contingent upon funding?
Contingent upon funding.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Thank you, Ben.
And then that means, because we might.
And when I say single, I mean one for the girls and one for the boys, but not two for the girls and two for the boys.
Okay.
That makes
Because-
I took it as like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, go ahead. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to,
Okay.
you can't, it's not like
They're not the
soccer
same
or
sport.
hockey, it's
Yeah.
two different sports, yeah.
Do we want to be clear about the funding? So could it be
Then-
continued upon
Contingent
outside
upon
funding?
funding.
Outside
Right.
So
funding.
just to make sure it's
Yeah.
clear for this year.
Right.
Were you able to capture that?
I was wondering if you might want to stick with the funding on just the thought.
Yep.
Because you might get a lot of funding happening, but you maybe just short a little bit, but you'll have a budget forecast a little later, and you'll be able to say, oh, well, perhaps because we got 95% of the funding we could, and we have a budget forecast that says we have this. So I was thinking that if you just had contingent upon funding, then it would give you flexibility on
We
something.
had some.
Yeah.
So no outside.
What's that?
So no outside. So this is
No outside.
to support a 1-year 2016-2017 1-year pilot for a girls and boys single lacrosse team contingent on outside funding.
I think the board is listening to, like, remove the outside.
Yeah, contingent upon funding.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a single girls and single boys.
Or A, whichever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
I just want to make sure it's clear we're not doing an A and B team for both
Right,
boys and
yeah.
girls, yeah.
Single girls
And single boys,
Yeah.
yep,
Contingent on funding.
correct.
I have a
Unless you
question.
get a ton of money. And
I was
then-
gonna say,
And
if
then
they-
you can have an A and a B team. I mean,
If
there's
they
nothing-
get a ton of money and enough interest for an
Yeah.
A and B team,
Right, why not?
So could you say a girls lacrosse program and a boys lacrosse program?
I'd say where we're going to run into a problem there is other teams to play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
think-
but, but you don't necessarily have to play other
Play other
teams.
teams.
You can have a
That's true.
practice squad.
Right.
That's true, yep.
I think your word program might be it, because the program, we don't exactly know what it's going to look
We
like
don't know.
until the October meeting, in which we find out. They may say, sorry, you'll have to go in as a club. You can call it what you want at your school, but you have to go in.
You may have a volunteer come in and say, hey, I would love to take this group of, guys or girls and coach them. And they, maybe I can get a couple friendlies against, some kids in Milford or Hollis or,
I think it's a good idea. I think we should really think about, though, that just keeping the scope small, because we have a great, long-standing, volunteer, private club in town, and at least as a representative of this board, we represent the rest of the community, too, in some ways, and I think that I'd like to know what the impact of having a single boys and girls middle school team is on that club before we say, well, because then if you have a practice squad, like, how many kids are you pulling out? You know what I mean?
do
Are
the
you
same thing for
competing
soccer
against?
though, Tim. Amherst Soccer Club has the exact same issue. And
Yeah.
they have multiple teams, and they've been in town for over 20 years. And we have an A and a B team for boys and girls for soccer. And most kids do both. Some don't, but most do both because that's their sport that they love. Just like lacrosse, they want to play all the time. So, and again, I don't want to put the burden on this group to be forced to do that, because that's not fair at all. It should be designed as your pilot. But I also don't necessarily want to limit it to one team if we happen to
Because
have
because why?
volunteers. Because we designed the purpose of our A and B team was to have access to all athletes, not just the elite. So that's why we started this in the first place, to have kids not be cut when they're 11 years old, so that kids develop at all different rates in middle school. And then it was unfortunate because there were kids who were trying out for middle school teams, not making them, and quitting, and then not pursuing them in high school when they might have gone on and had successful careers. So that was the entire purpose for the A and the B teams. So I would like to see that.
My recollection of why we support A and B teams was because there was already interest, and my thing is the reason to go with a single team, I want to see what the level of interest is and what the impact is on the rest of the community. I know we have experience with that, with Amherst Lacrosse, with soccer club. I respect that, but I don't know. There's nobody here from Amherst Lacrosse Club. I would love to be able to ask them, what do you think about this? Is this going to pull a lot of kids from Amherst Lacrosse Club? They can play Amherst Lacrosse. A lot of the kids in town who play lacrosse, want to try lacrosse, already play for Amherst Lacrosse Club. So I don't want to create a competing and fund a competing organization with another club in our own town if we don't have to. At least in year one, that's just my personal feeling. I don't know that I want to do that. But that's just me. I don't know what everybody else feels. I don't know. We could, maybe year two, we go and go, oh, this is great, no problem, and it ends up being fine. But I don't know why we would want to do that.
Well, I mean, is there an advantage to one over the other? Or do you think everyone's going to want to leave Amherst Lacrosse Club to go play for the middle school, or do you think there's going to still be enough interest to have both?
The advantage is that the kids get to play after school. It's a big advantage, I think. The disadvantage is that for kids who aren't as into it, they may not want to have to play every single day. They may want to prefer to play 2 days a week and on the weekends. I think parents might like the middle school program more because they get to play their games during the week versus having to block out time to play on the weekends.
So I think there's just some variables there that I'd like to know.
So possibly.
But I support having a middle school team. I just think we need to try it out.
So your contention is that we, for those reasons, we say that a single girls, a single boys lacrosse team for FY16-17, dependent on funding, and then with the idea being that we see how that plays out in the spring to see whether or not if it's something we want to fund in the fall, and look at then to see whether it gets expanded. And by then, we'll have a better understanding of the feedback from the Amherst lacrosse team. That's what I'm hearing you say?
We'd have to already pass the budget and plan for it in the budget.
Right.
In October.
Yeah, October, November, before we have anything.
You're right, Beth. You're right. The time doesn't work out.
And that is one of the reasons why I asked Mel to come for the board, because if it's something we're going to adopt, I'll have to put that into the budget very soon, for the following year. We can get the funding hopefully this year, and it's a no-go anyway. I'm confident that will probably happen, but we have to put it into the budget.
So it sounds like if we're to do that, we need to hear from the Amherst lacrosse. Like you said, you're looking for feedback.
I don't think a practice squad.
Excuse me, because people at home can't hear you unless you're.
Okay. I don't think a practice squad, like if the following year you wanted to do a practice squad, that wouldn't financially affect it very much because you wouldn't.
You'd be a coach, probably.
Yeah, you probably need another coach, and that could, it could be a volunteer or, but that I wouldn't. I'd be wary of doing it that first year because I would be afraid of the impact on ALC, and I am a member of ALC. I've coached it for. I'd be afraid of the impact on probably the 5th and 6th graders at ALC, which with the contact in boys lacrosse, 5th and 6th graders, the contact is not allowed. Same with the girls. It's a different. They're allowed different type of checking. So I'm not so sure those 5th and 6th graders should be playing with the 7th and 8th graders. They don't allow them at ALC.
The 5th graders, we don't have 5th
Oh,
graders.
okay.
So, we do have 6th graders, but that would certainly be up for a discussion with.
Yeah, that would be my one fear with 6th graders playing.
Yep.
Would be they're not. When the 7th and 8th graders, it's full contact. 6th graders, it's not.
Yep.
Same with checking for girls.
Right.
There's no checking at the 6th grade level where 7th and 8th there is. So that would be my fear with that more than numbers or anything else would be opening this up, throwing kids in to a situation where they're not ready yet, and U.S. Lacrosse probably says they're not ready.
So you could have the large 7th and 8th grade.
Right, you could.
You could end up with two A
Yes.
and B combined 7th and 8th for the following year.
So So my thing on the practice, I think it's a good idea to practice squad, but I would hate to have, I don't want to say relegated to a practice squad, but I think if kids want to play lacrosse, they want to play. I'd rather have a B team or a second team or a younger team, personally, if we're going to do that. So if we do that, have a B team, are they going to have kids to play?
Right now, no.
Okay.
They won't.
There are no teams that I know of. Again, I haven't thoroughly investigated anything new, but what we had from last spring, the information was that they weren't, and I believe some of the smaller schools had 6th graders playing, but most of them were 7 and 8 as well, and I didn't realize until Milt just mentioned that there is a factor involved there with possibly even liability if kids are a certain age, and you've got National Lacrosse saying that they shouldn't be checking at a certain age versus others, and I certainly, this is the first contact sport we'll have had in the school. It is a contact sport, so we wouldn't want to put ourselves in a lawsuit by any means.
Can we limit the program just to 6th and 8th graders?
since the girls seem to be.
I would suggest that. I think that would be, I think that would alleviate some problems for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Plus, if you've got the numbers that we think, that Milton, some of the parents think we'll have, you're going to have, we talked about the no cutting, you're going to have some 7th graders who are going to be cut versus some 6th graders who another year of ALC wouldn't hurt at all, you know? So that could start to be a problem. And that was another reason, if you remember the discussion, was that some kids were in the 8th grade were being displaced by, they were worried that an 8th grader would be displaced by a 6th grader, you know? And would that be fair? With B teams, we eliminated that. We had some 8th graders playing B, we had some 8th grade, it worked out very well.
Right.
I mean, do I think there's going to be B teams soon? Yeah. I think this will, once other teams get involved, it's going to start to explode. Because I know for the older kids, the scheduling for ALC is really hard to schedule that. We ran into a lot of problems this year with scheduling for the older kids just because of their involvement. But Amherst Lacrosse Club is a lot like Tomahawks, I think. And so that it's kind of comparing, it's not the same as ALC. ALC is kind of the town team, I guess, where Amherst Lacrosse Club, Amherst Soccer Club, I'd compare it to more to like a Tomahawks travel team type thing. So I don't know how, all I know is the numbers of the 8th grade and that, what that would be.
All right.
Remember, I think we're still talking about a pilot too. It's not
Yeah.
well-formed, all
Yeah.
done, ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So what's the motion?
To support a one-year, 2016-2017, one-year pilot for a single girls and single boys lacrosse team contingent on funding.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right.
And who seconded?
I was going to say, was there
Oh,
a
I'm
second?
sorry.
That's all right.
I'll second.
Okay, Paul seconded. All right, revote. All those in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you, Milt.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Practice is over, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think
All right. Seeing no one else from the public, we can move on to the consent agenda. Any questions?
No.
Get a motion?
I'll motion. What? I was just saying more than that.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. So I didn't realize I had to say more than that.
A second.
All those in favor? Okay. All right, presentations. So we have Christine is going to talk about a mentoring program.
Christine, do you want us to take care of it over here?
Do you want to,
Yeah.
you have the mouse in front of you?
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
want to scroll. I'll bring it up if you need to.
It's page 52 with that.
52?
Maybe not, but like,
You may not be, you may have to scroll
out
on
of
that
the
journey.
100 and,
Yeah,
Let's see if we can go a little faster here.
yeah, there you go.
It's a quick
you went too
meeting.
far.
You're 97. Oh, boy, you're
I
fast.
am
Jerry.
sorry.
About halfway.
Getting there. 62.
Oh, here we go.
It's in there.
Here we go. All right. All right, now I'll go slowly. Yowza, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
So we, as far as I know, have never had a mentoring program in Amherst, and it actually we started talking about the possibility of a mentoring program out of our teacher and leader effectiveness work we were doing. But since we didn't have many new staff, that work really never rolled out. And, it was kind of the next phase of teacher and leader effectiveness. And this spring, our professional development committee, we did a lot of work around re-envisioning our professional development committee. And out of that work, one of the items was to develop a mentoring program. And this was a 5-year plan for our PD committee, so that was just one of our items on our 5-year re-envisioning of our professional development committee and what professional development might look like over SAU 39. So it was on that list, and then I started having conversations with the principals, and as they were going through the interview process, which was very busy last spring, they started realizing and recognizing the need for a mentoring program sooner rather than later. So it was something that we didn't budget for, but something we felt really strongly about at least exploring the possibility of starting a pilot program for this year. We had so many new staff this year that we actually had to move our SAU orientation day over to Clark School to use the multipurpose room. It's always been at the SAU. So there's certainly a need across all of our districts, and Mount Vernon has always had stipends for mentors in the contract. However, they've actually never had a full mentoring program. Years ago, they had a little bit of guidance and supported something. One of the teachers supported a little bit of a program, but there's never been a formal program with training and support. So after speaking with the principals and, speaking with the professional development committee and then with Peter, we started talking about, whether this is something that we might be able to pull off for this year, still, do thoughtfully and make it work this year to support all those new teachers. Even in many of the interviews that we had with the new teachers, they all asked to have a mentoring program to support new teachers to the district. So we felt pretty strongly about exploring. So what we decided to do, we started kicking around some ideas, and you can scroll to the next, Jerry, how we might make something work this summer to set a few things in place. So what we decided to do was to pull a group of teachers together, and I just sent an email out, and I was amazed. And of course, I think it was probably a Sunday night or something like that. I sent the email out, and I get flooded with responses. So I was amazed at how many teachers were interested in participating in a summer day to come together and to help design the mentoring program. So that was really exciting. So we had nice representation across Clark Wilkins and AMS and Mount Vernon as well. So we did include Mount Vernon. In conversations with Sauhegan, they only have 3 new teachers this year, so very different position than Amherst and Mount Vernon, and they have a mini mentoring program in place already at Sauhegan. So we were really looking K-8 in designing a program. So I met with teachers. It was 9 teachers. 8 or 9 teachers to develop what a pilot mentoring program might look like. So that's what I'll be presenting and sharing with you today. So the teachers felt that we needed to start small. It is a pilot program. We started talking about, just teachers new to the district. We're not going to include paraprofessionals. We don't feel that we're ready for that yet. And we also, there was some discussion about teachers who maybe are just starting their second year, that they might still benefit from a program, but we were worried about taking too much on too quickly. So we felt that it would be teachers just new to the district, which is 9 teachers at AMS and 5 teachers at Clark Wilkins. Funding, and this is something that I communicated with Amy about this summer. We had budgeted this year for CFG coach stipends, but since, and those CFG coaches typically facilitated during our late starts, since all of our late starts are focused on our pace work, there's less of our critical friends groups, or our fly groups, we've used different terms, of those sessions happening. We are certainly working collaboratively with the teachers, and teachers might be facilitating, but it's not on an ongoing basis. So at the time when we were budgeting, we didn't realize that we wouldn't need those stipends. And in brainstorming, Derry actually came up with that idea that we wouldn't need those stipends this year, so we actually could look at possibly utilizing the funding for those. As far as formal meetings, mentors would receive a stipend, so we would have them meet. In all of the research that we did, we realized that the most important part is the ongoing support for the mentors, because they're already providing the support to the mentees. And a lot of times you think, oh, the program needs to be for the mentees, they're the new teachers. It's really, if you do a great job at training your mentors, your mentees are taken care of. So that was one piece that, through our research we determined, and we felt that once a month for an hour-long meeting would be appropriate for the mentors to be trained. That certainly would be past contract hours in the afternoon after school. So, but those mentors would be receiving a stipend anyway. The mentees wouldn't be receiving a stipend, and we felt that they actually needed meetings more often. Because there's so much, and you can often get overloaded. Even an hour meeting might be too much for the mentee who's taking a lot in when they first arrive with us. So we thought 2 meetings per month for mentees in 30 minutes, and that's actually within contract hours at the end of the day. So we felt that would work really well for those ongoing meetings for those teachers. And then the informal meetings, there would be continuous informal meetings between the mentors and the mentees, just whenever that is needed. So that was the big overview. Any questions on that so far? I know I shared a lot.
So with the formal meeting, one time per month for mentors, so are then they meeting with 2 mentees for half an hour each, and then 2 times per month for the mentees for, I don't know.
Yeah, Yeah, so there's basically 2 different sets of formal meetings happening at 2 different times. So one would be for mentors for an hour, and the mentees don't join at all. The mentees are actually having a separate meeting at a different date and time. Yes, great question. So actually, the next page, these are the 4 different roles of the mentor program. So there's a steering committee, which is actually just a group of teachers we met during the summer. I told them they could come up with their own name for themselves, and they chose the steering committee. They liked that. And then there would be a mentor program facilitator and really a mentee program facilitator. So that program facilitator would be running the meetings. So the mentor program facilitator would run the mentor meetings, which would happen once a month to train the mentors, and we actually have a training plan outlined also. And then there would also be someone facilitating the mentee meetings. So they would be separate meetings happening.
Is it by building?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we would do it by building, just because the end time of school wouldn't allow us to get together.
So how are these facilitators getting trained?
Yeah. So we actually, the steering committee developed a binder that actually contains a lot of the training materials. So I had a lot of materials available for them for that day, so I was able to share that out with them, and they felt like that would be, and many of them were interested in being the program facilitators. That many of the steering committee members were interested in that role.
Now, I'm just quickly going through to see if this is answered or not, but it doesn't really look like it. My thought is, the purpose of this is to just kind of pair our new hires up with our environment, the way we work, how our buildings work, that type of a thing? Or is there something else on top of that?
It is that, and initially that's typically what it is, but there are those pieces throughout the whole year also. So when you get to open house, the mentees need a lot of support in what they need to do for open house, then for parent conferences and report cards, and throughout the year, then NEWA testing and Smarter Balance testing. So it really is an ongoing throughout the year support and guidance, but there's even communicating with parents, even outside of parent conferences. But there's also the whole layer of the curriculum piece too, and support even with lesson planning, with lesson design, and actually part of this program, I'm jumping a little bit, but the mentor would be observing, non-evaluative observation would be observing the mentee, and the mentee would also be observing their mentor. So even talking a little bit about, what good teaching practices are, and supporting in that aspect. It could be that you're struggling often and this is brand new, some of these teachers, they might be a veteran teacher and they're just new to our district and still would be in the mentoring program, so they might not need quite as much support. But they might, want to dive more deeply into Thoughtful Classroom to understand that a little bit better. So that could be an area that they focus in.
Yeah, would they possibly use the Thoughtful Classroom?
Oh, there you go.
They may if they want to, yeah. We didn't dig that deeply into that. It would be non-evaluative,
Right.
so
But
they
it's still
can.
yeah.
Yeah. We trained our coaches in that tool because it really is meant to be a non-evaluative. It's
Right.
meant to be a coaching model,
Right.
so there's not evaluation built into that. So they absolutely could be using that. So
it's more of how, because I'm thinking a lot of our new hires aren't brand new teachers. They've taught at least for a handful of years.
right.
So it's more of how we do these things
Yes.
as a district.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because every district has, a different model for teacher observation, and even with parent communication, I think, especially if you look at the curriculum, a lot of the work we're doing around performance assessment, that's more unique to our district than all of the other districts. So I could see support needed in that area too. And it'll be really interesting. This truly is a pilot program. And we really want to get a lot of feedback, what worked, what didn't work, what topics did you need, what didn't you need, was this helpful or not, was this, did this make a difference? And I know when I first got the steering committee together, they were very excited and, they wanted to plan a 3-year program. And so when we said just a year and let's see how it goes, but they really felt like there would be value in actually it being a multi-year program. So the steering committee, Jerry, if you want to go to the next slide, they really developed the mentoring program, so we spent one summer day working, and they would be in charge of the ongoing monitoring and evaluating of the mentor program. And we would be collecting information, whether it's surveys or do something with focus groups. That was one piece we weren't able to finalize over the summer, but something we would finalize during the year. And they would really be making recommendations for future mentoring programs. Do we continue with this program? Do we expand the program? And really looking at the data and the feedback that we received to be making some sort of recommendation to all of us. And then the mentor program facilitator. This would be the person who oversees the training of the mentors and the mentees. We felt really strongly, and teachers felt this way as well, that this could be, if we didn't make this also a stipend position and have a teacher run this could be one more thing for administrators. And we were worried that it might get lost in the shuffle. And when a teacher is really taking this on as their lead work, we felt like it was similar to almost the CFG coach role, but also it would allow another layer in the mentoring program. So if a mentee is struggling a little bit with, sometimes mentors and mentees don't always match as well as we would like them to, or maybe they want an outside opinion, or they're worried about asking their mentor, this would be another level, so they could go to their mentee program facilitator to ask. So it's just another support, and someone else running the program, and I know Jerry and I were chatting about this, and he said, would I ever get to be part of the program? And we said that, administration would be invited in, but wouldn't certainly be required, and there might be questions sometimes that a new teacher feels more comfortable asking the mentor or mentee program facilitator than asking Jerry. So we liked having this support structure in place for our new teachers. So they would oversee the training of the mentors, and there would be 2 facilitators in each building. So the mentor program facilitator and the mentee program facilitator. And they would be responsible for planning and facilitating the meetings. They would be really sending out agendas, setting meeting dates and times, sending out reminders, and also helping to track PD hours. So letting Sue Ledger know when their meetings are, sending in the list of who's attended so they can receive professional development hours. And they would report to administrators, so they would let us know how things are going with the program, what supports they need, if there's additional materials or questions came up that they couldn't answer, or if they need to roll people in, we could certainly see them rolling curriculum coordinators into meetings or administrators into meetings, depending on what the topic is. And the next is The mentor, obviously, they would be required to attend one formal training meeting per month. And that's really to support and to train them. And I have a little outline of what that would look like. They need to be willing to be observed by their mentee, be willing to meet with their mentee on a regular basis, which might be during prep time, it might be during lunch, it might be before or after school, any of those times. I know I was sharing with Peter when I was a mentor one year, I literally every Sunday night was on the phone with my mentee, and we were doing lesson plans together over the phone for probably 2 or 3 hours. So it was, a lot of time, and it all depends on experience and comfort and so on for that time commitment. But the other piece is establishing that confidential relationship. We did list, and I'll go quickly through this, but mentor eligibility. The group did come up with a list of what they felt, the mentors would have to have. I'll let you read that. And then the mentees, they would be required to attend training 2 times per month, be observed by they would have to observe their mentor. They would also be observed by their mentor, meet with their mentor on an ongoing basis, and that peer coaching is really that observation piece, the non-evaluative observation.
So who determines the mentors?
I'm sorry?
Who determines the mentors based on this eligibility criteria?
Yeah, so we would post the stipend position, and staff would apply. And I actually have more, even longer list. I didn't include it in the presentation, but the steering committee really outlined even more guidance. We had a very long discussion, and I think really it would ultimately be the principals, but I'm certainly happy, depending on how many people apply, and really working with principals to determine who would be the best match, because that's an important piece, that matching. But we had a really long discussion. The steering committee felt strongly that it shouldn't be your teaching partner, because they felt that your teaching partner is already a mentor in a way, and that they would be supporting you with certain things, and to have someone outside of that relationship so that there's multiple people that a new employee or a new teacher can go to. So they can go to their teaching partner, they can go to their mentor, or they could go to their program facilitator.
Would it be grade paired or
not necessarily? We had a long discussion. I thought they would want a grade pairing just outside of their team, and many said not necessarily, that it's not always the curriculum piece. And often if, so say for example, you have a 5th grade reading and language or humanities teacher who needs, who's a new teacher and they need a mentor, you could choose a 6th grade humanities teacher, and they'd be able to support just as much with curriculum, and your teaching partner would be, and your colleagues at your grade level would also be able to support. So they actually felt having multiple people to go to for support was better than having the teaching partner also be the mentor. And especially up at Mount Vernon, they were really concerned that there's only 2 teachers in a grade level, so it would be really important to choose someone outside of your grade level for that. So, the mentor program meeting topics. Scroll, Jerry. Sorry, I went too fast. Oops. That was the mentee, and then the next one should be the mentor program meeting topics. So we have a full list, and they did a great job. The group who worked on the mentor program did a lot of research, and they looked at really emotionally how new teachers are usually feeling at different points during the school year, and they really tried to create a program of topics. And they felt that each meeting would have the same agenda with different topics. So they would begin with a check-in and a quick whip around, really to just check in with the mentors to see how they're doing, how their work is going with their mentees. Talk about what phase their mentees probably are in their first year of that process, some of the challenges and celebrations of that phase. And then there would be a content focus. So the first meeting would probably be an overview of the mentoring program and for them to understand their role. Then talking about non-evaluative feedback and the role of observation, that peer coaching and peer observation. They'd be trained in reflective listening, the peer coaching, the mentee observation piece, stress management, and staying positive. So they really wanted to make sure that they were supporting the mentors in being able to provide that support to mentees. So that was really their focus. And then the mentee program meeting topics, you can see these are a little bit more nuts and bolts. And it really, we kind of looked sequentially through the year and what mentees would need. And there are a lot more topics, and this wasn't a complete list. I just pulled a sampling from what our steering committee built. But, open house and conferences and building procedures and IEP meetings and so on. And some of these might be covered by the mentor just in their one-on-one meetings with their mentees. But kind of going deeply into some of these will be really helpful too. And it will be interesting to see. I've often found that, the mentees almost need everything in the beginning of the year, and you can't wait too long for certain things, so we're certainly looking at that. And I know looking at other districts' mentoring programs, often there's a summer day. We do have one summer day at the U Orientation Day. So much is done during that day already. But wouldn't it be great if there was even some time to meet their mentor if the mentor had already been chosen? That's certainly something for, possibly continuing. So I know this, we tried to do as much work as we could this summer with kind of a last-minute thought on pulling something together. I don't know if you have any other questions on what we pulled together.
So I'd add two things. One is that teachers have been asking for this. And the other part is that this is, when Christine came to me, I'm thinking, it's not really part of the strategic plan. And then we had a conversation, and I said, well, I'm thinking, so we have tripod. This is an extension of Thoughtful Classroom, so it really does fit in. But teachers especially have been asking for this for a long time, so I'm really pleased to have a pilot from this.
And it is when the New Hampshire Department of Education created their Phase 1 report, which was on teacher effectiveness, they had different pillars. One was, the teacher evaluation. The other pillar was mentoring. So they really felt that was part of a teacher effectiveness system. So without that piece, this really is the PD side of our teacher effectiveness system in a sense. It's just, we had planned to roll this out with the committee, but the need arose sooner.
I agree. This fits. This fits, sure. Yes.
How many new teachers?
There's more in Mont Vernon, but it's 5 in Clark Wilkins, and that's, I think it's slide
14.
Yeah, 9 at AMS,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. And, it's funny, but I looked at this. I hadn't seen this slide yet, but if you can understand how many emails I've been answering for the new teachers. We haven't had new teachers, it seems. I don't know if Jerry's been getting, but I've been answering these questions on emails like crazy and telephone calls about these things, realizing, wow, we haven't had this luxury, but it's also for the new teachers who want to know procedurally. They want to start off and they want to do right. So.
And our new teachers don't know about this yet. I felt like it was important for me to come to the school board first and share with all of you, and then be able to make a determination around stipends. We need your direction on that before we can move forward. And then we'll be able to share out with new teachers that we have the program and be able to post and set mentors and mentees up. And I think it will probably help the new teachers feel like then they have that point person and someone to go to.
I'm assuming it's meant to be what, like a one-on-one, right?
Yes, meant to be what? That's a good question.
Do you think you'll have enough interest to have a mentor for everyone?
I believe so. And, there was a lot of interest from, I had 6 teachers, 3 from Clark Wilkins and 3 from AMS, and I believe all of them were interested in possibly being either a mentor or a facilitator, which, we would need at AMS, we would need 11, we would need 9 mentors, and then 2 facilitators. And I believe we have 10 stipends in each school, so we might need to just transfer between, which is not a, that's an easy transfer between the 2 schools for those stipends. And then, Jerry, you would need 7. I believe. Was 5 the right number?
Yeah, because
for new teachers, right?
We wouldn't worry about an administrator, right?
Right. Yeah. Jerry, you volunteered to.
That's right. Absolutely. Yes.
So I actually think this is going to benefit the mentors as well quite a bit. I mean, oftentimes we have to actually explain things and get questions. It can help them just as much. So that's great.
And I feel like we would be building our materials throughout the year, which I know we might even, I might have an after-school meeting one day with the steering committee to continue building some of the materials, or mentor facilitators to keep working on this. It's definitely a work in progress. I probably could have used 2 full days with them. They were actually really upset and didn't want to leave at the end of the day because they were so engrossed in the work. So I was lucky enough to have so many people interested and a great group to work with to plan the mentoring program. So based on the feedback, there were some other people who had volunteered, and the timing didn't work because they had either, a Title I program or a summer vacation. So I probably had, while I had 6 people in Amherst come to our meeting, I probably had at least 12 people respond, maybe even more than that they were interested. And some said, can't make that day, but would love to be a mentor. So I don't think we'll have trouble finding enough people. And
Did you have a question?
I do have a question. What happens, is there some sort of checks and balances to make sure that the mentor doesn't drop the ball partway through the year?
Right, that's a really good question. And it really, we didn't put that in place. That would be part specifically in place. I would hope that through the conversations they're having at the monthly meetings and these check-ins that they plan to have, how are things going, and if they're saying, oh, I'm not really meeting, it might give the heads up to the facilitator. But I do feel like part of our evaluation, which we haven't developed yet, but there would be surveys. So both the mentor and the mentee would provide feedback, and I would hope that, and it would be anonymous, but I'd hope that the mentee would provide that feedback, that they felt that the support, was really good in the middle of the year, and then that fell off. I would hope.
An interim survey.
But we can do that too, yeah.
That's what I'm wondering is, I don't know, this isn't like any thoughts on any teachers that we have in our district, but people are people.
They get busy, and there are a lot of...
They get busy. Life happens. They can drop the ball or decide that this is more than they thought it was going to be, or they didn't plan on putting as much into it and just stop. Do they? I guess my main question is, I don't know how the stipend program works. Do they get paid one lump sum in the beginning, or is it like a little bit throughout, so that
we can
if their
set that.
need is to find a replacement for somebody, that we still have money to play with?
Right. So we get to decide on that stipend, how it's rolled out, right, Peter? We've done that in the past. So it might make sense for one halfway through the year and then one at the end of the year. I don't know if principals have input on that.
Coaches are given after they complete. Right. They're given theirs. This because it's a year-long thing. I know athletic directors are given installments versus...
Right, curriculum coordinators are given installments also.
Right, so, but certainly I get what you're getting at, and I think that one of the good things, especially in the first year, I hope we don't see that, because there'll be meetings regularly that we're going to find out when all of a sudden, somebody's not participating in those meetings. They'll keep their minutes and that type of thing. So hopefully we won't have that happen. The people who want to be a mentor, I'm hoping are the ones that really feel like they have something to give.
Right.
It's just like a lot of people don't want to have a student teacher. Others can't love them because they just feel it's their calling to give to teach others to teach. So, but not everybody. So.
Do you know, I think the facilitative leaders whom we used to meet with regularly, the administrators, so that would be a change. We wouldn't necessarily, as administrators, be meeting with the mentors as regularly. But I think the stipend was $500 for each facilitative leader. So I would think if we're looking at a comparable number of mentors, then that would be approximately the stipend we would offer up. And I think a piece we should make sure we stress with staff too is that those facilitative leadership stipends are going away. So
for at least this year.
For this year.
Right,
so I think there could be people who have been trained to be facilitative leaders who could actually make very good mentors also. And they, so I definitely think there's interest, but would you agree the stipend would probably be about the same, $500?
That's my next question.
Yeah, and Peter and I have talked about this, and what we've budgeted for is, we have in our budget $500 stipends for the CFG coaches, and if we're not utilizing those, especially the mentor and mentee facilitators, they're doing almost the exact same role as the CFG coaches or facilitative leader coaches. So we felt like that was pretty similar. It's really tough. We felt, again, and those facilitators would not have mentees. So their only job is to run the meetings and create the materials and support, either the mentors or the mentees throughout the year. But the mentors, it's really hard to determine how much time. I felt that, we discussed it, we felt that $500, since that's what was budgeted, and we felt that was a good place to start. It is really a pilot program, but that's something that we would certainly want to look at to see how much time the mentors are spending with their mentees and whether that's an appropriate stipend or not.
So do we have the right amount of money already budgeted in the CFG to cover what you believe is necessary for the mentoring program?
Yes, because we have 10 in each.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do have the funding, but we don't, the Amherst collective bargaining agreement outlines that it's the board that sets the stipend rate. So since we don't have a stipend rate set for mentors and mentor facilitators, we do need the board to set that rate, so we don't need to transfer funds. We need the board to set that rate so that we're able to then offer that stipend.
Okay, so we don't need to do a budget transfer, we need to set a rate. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because the money's in the stipend account since we budgeted for the CFG coaches.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Are we?
And Betty, you didn't have anything else on that, right? That's not correct.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, so someone like to make a motion to set the rate, correct?
I guess that would be the language, Betty. Is that to determine the stipend rate?
Yes, and I think you probably want to probably make a motion to go forward with the pilot program.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
With the rate of.
Okay.
At a rate of
Okay.
And we have talked to our union head about this program, and again, it came from them. It came from teachers in our districts that wanted to have this program. So the offering is the $500 stipend set by the board. So.
And that was a positive meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So make a motion to support the mentoring pilot program with a rate for facilitators and mentors of a stipend of $500 each.
Correct.
Yes.
Is there a second?
You're going to have to go back.
I'm not sure I can. I got it right once. That's it. I'm done for the day.
To support the mentoring pilot program,
Pilot program.
For the pilot
Yeah.
The mentor
Pilot program.
Yep. Mentor pilot
Mentor
program.
Yeah.
pilot program.
Yep.
Easy for you to say.
mentor pilot program.
Right. With a rate of a $500 stipend for facilitators and mentors. And I think that was $500 each, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the whole thing. But so,
$5
we have 5 minutes each.
for facilitators and mentors.
Correct.
Yes.
And who seconded?
I did.
Yep. Yep. I was
This
going to
should
go to
actually
that.
be information. Just a quick.
Okay, all right.
Was the vote taken? I'm sorry.
No, not yet.
Okay.
So all those in favor? Motion passes. Great. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
You want to stay there and talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so now, under informational, really, Christine's going to give us some information on a potential annual report card / dashboard.
So Some of these discussions started probably last spring. The Mount Vernon board wanted to really be able to communicate with the community about the school and how well the school is doing, and have a number of different metrics. So not just standardized assessment scores, but other things such as extracurricular activities, the number of students who participate in those activities, and so on. And we've been starting to explore that this summer and look at we in Mount Vernon we developed a list of some of the metrics we might want to include, and we're going to be looking at how we might use our website and develop a page on our website that actually is almost like a dashboard to provide a quick snapshot of all of that data, but a picture of not just the assessment scores, but other the other picture as well. And the idea really came, some states and districts actually have what's called like a school report card, and that school report card, some are things we don't have, like it's more of a dynamic dashboard where you can actually interface with it. Our website really would be more static, but it's something that we could update on a routine basis. So we wanted to share that with you, since Mount Vernon is exploring that and we started looking into it. We really feel like our website's the only platform we'd have. We don't, many large districts who have those data dashboards and those, dynamic data dashboards, they have pretty sophisticated systems to create those with, and they also have full-time webmasters or, data managers who are running those systems, which we don't have. But we felt like we certainly could create something for our website to kind of give a picture of the schools. So Mount Vernon is looking into that, so we just wanted to share it with the Amherst board to see. It's certainly in the very beginning stages, and I thought I'd have time this summer to start digging into that, but it was a very busy summer. So that might be a September.
We can't let you do it all.
I know.
Really, you didn't have enough time.
I know.
So, and we've talked about it as an interest for Amherst as well, and we talked as a board about this as something that we definitely want to look into, and it's when I meet with the other chairs, we've talked about it as let's try to be consistent. So I know there's definitely interest from our board, and I know we're at the beginning stages, but I think this is something Jim has talked a lot about, and this is
Right. So I don't know if we'd want to brainstorm it, and it doesn't have to be this meeting. A future meeting, brainstorm a list of some of the metrics that we might want to include on that dashboard.
Are there common metrics that other good school systems look at? How am I trying to say this? And have it to be meaningful too. Like, I know there's probably some information the community wants, and so I think we should always make that available. But maybe it's just like the informational stuff is separate. Where my hope would be that we would come up with some kind of dashboard where the metrics we looked at could point us in the right direction, like in terms of, are we getting where we want to get to, or are we not getting where we want to get to? Just like, like in healthcare with the ACOs have their 33 quality metrics, and they're basically saying those 33 quality metrics, we're placing a bet that if we hit those or don't hit those, it's going to impact our performance. So very, very similar type of thing. Doesn't have to be 33, by the way. It could be a lot fewer. But hopefully it would be a lot fewer. But do you have a sense for it? Is there any benchmark for that?
So I can share with you what some other districts do, but it's also what we value, and I think that's an important piece. I think that we value more than just standardized assessment scores, so what else could that include? Do we value, the whole child in that experience, the extracurricular piece? Would that be an important piece, because that's what we value? So I think a conversation around what do we value, and so what should be included there, but sometimes teacher-student ratios are included. Sometimes even computer-to-student ratios are included. I know other states. I know in New Jersey we had a school report card. The New Jersey Department of Education actually did it for us, which was really nice. We uploaded the info to them, and they created it. So some states do that, which is where Tom actually found a really good example of this data dashboard, and that was, one was done at the state level, another was a pretty large district. So we can get samples from others and some ideas, that we could either share some ideas with you, but like even national board certification for teachers, the number of teachers with national board certification, and some even master's degrees and so on.
And I don't know if we can do this with all of the metrics, but I'd like to think about it as for goal setting also, and having targets. I mean, we look at teacher-student ratios, and for kindergarten, we don't want to go above 20 to 1, and if we do, then we look at, hiring another teacher, so it does direct us in some ways. So I'd like to think of it in that way also. So not just providing the information, but using it for goal setting as a district.
So it's actionable,
Yeah. And moving forward, not only will we have data for standardized assessment scores, but when we, look at PACE, or performance assessment of competency education, and I know Beth was able to join us at our competency design studio, so she's deeply ingrained in some of that work, and we'll be doing, I know at our SAU board meetings, we'll be doing a competency and PACE PD session, I think, at our October SAU board meeting. So you'll learn more about that then. But one of the pieces is this idea of an assessment map in each content area, having common assessments that teachers create, and actually tracking student progress on those common assessments. So we need the right software to be able to do that and to track that, but that's something moving forward we would be able to even look at. So it's not just our NWEA scores or Smarter Balance scores, but even our common assessments.
Can I ask just one more clarifying question? Because I don't know that I got quite the answer, but I didn't ask it the right way. So at the beginning, I guess what I was asking for is what does the research say about things you should measure that they are confident can improve outcomes, educational outcomes? Is there research to support that, or is not there research to support it? And I'm guessing I know what the answer is already, but it probably should publicly.
So that's a really, really tough question, and that was kind of what I was hinting at with values. So certain districts measure certain things because they feel that's what's important, and that will lead to better student outcomes. So we have to decide as a district what we think would be our student outcomes. Our standardized test score is the only way we want to measure our student progress. And if we feel that they are a good measure and the only measure we would need, then that would be something we'd want to track, we'd want to set goals for. If we feel like there are other measures, then we would want to be looking at those. So it's actually around values and where we want to focus our energy and our efforts, and I think our strategic plan might even give us a little bit of a window into that.
There's not anything more empirical, though? Like, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, for example, is there any empirical evidence to say that the percentage of students who come to school having had breakfast yield to X number of outcomes that our students, I'm talking about, like, is there any empirical data that we can look to so that we can make a decision to say, hey, maybe we should do this? Or is there any empirical data, to Amy's point, that says the more that students are involved in extracurricular activities, then that leads to better student outcomes? Or, I'm wondering if there's any empirical data like that. Just like we know that, we have good empirical data that if somebody's admitted to the hospital, if you give them a pneumococcal vaccine, they have good outcome, that type of thing. We know if somebody has a heart attack, put them on a beta blocker. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
we know that these have great outcomes. Yes. So the one thing that's always got me about education is everything is so squishy.
It is.
So if there's any empirical data at all we can go to.
So yes, and that's very.
Desperate.
I know.
I actually kind of want to build on that. More than just affects our students, but are we also looking at this as affects our community? Because although extracurricular activities may not help the students' academic performance, it affects the safety of our community because they don't have time to run around and vandalize neighborhoods and whatever. I don't know. But, is that also important to us? I guess kind of, are we, Are we using this as a marketing tool to get people to move into our community?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an
I
offshoot
mean,
of that for
that's
sure. Yeah.
where Mount Vernon was
Yeah,
coming from,
absolutely.
especially in looking at support for schools, and even during budget time, that they felt that if they could better communicate to their community about student outcomes, then they might receive support during budget time. So that was one of the motivating factors.
And they are.
And it's about transparency.
Right.
To answer Jim's question, yes, there's a ton
That's a good point.
of educational research out there, but it's about digging into each one of those different areas. So is there research around extracurricular activities? Absolutely. And the more students are involved in any type of extracurricular activity, typically the better that they do academically in school. So that is research out there. We would have to go and be pulling the research from each of those different questions that you had. One of the challenges, so for example, let's talk about, maybe you would want to include computer to student ratio. So I can dig for some of that research, but the problem is in every different district, they may have used the computers in a different way or given teachers professional development or not given them professional development, so they may have had different outcomes. So a lot of times when you're looking, the reason why it ends up being squishy when you're looking for any type of research, you can find a lot of research, but it's digging to find the research study that was done that's more similar to what you currently have in your district. And how you might roll that out or what that looks like. So it's tough.
Which is why values are important, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We talked a while ago, remember about NEAS&C, that organization that goes into schools? So some of the things they look at really are categories of leadership, instruction, curriculum, community services. So there's that level. There's other kinds of things that we look at, like, so for in high school, how many teachers have distinguished awards? So there's a large number of pieces that, what matters to us when we look through all those things, that we should have a dashboard on. Some of it's like, well, let's look and see what the SAT scores are compared to other places, right? I'll give you Dover Sherborne High School in Massachusetts, one of the top in the country. Look at their website. Okay, so they have a profile, they have things that they look at. It's interesting, very interesting that their mission statement, take a look at that, because it deals with 3 words.
Oh, God.
Just
Respect,
like
trust, and courage?
No.
Okay.
And I was the...
Fortunately, I'm connected to the internet now.
I chaired the commission.
I just brought it up.
I chaired the visiting team on that in that school district to look at the same kinds of things we're talking about here. So we'd love your thoughts about what you might want on that dashboard, but also we've got a lot of things we'll share.
Okay.
So, okay.
So what's the next steps on this?
So I don't know if we'd want to, so there are different ways we could proceed. We could do more of a brainstorming session at a future board meeting to brainstorm all possible options for what we might want to include. We could have a smaller meeting if just 1 or 2 people would like to meet to do some brainstorming and then bring to the full board. We could also do a full brainstorm, and then I can go and do some more research to see what other states or districts might use that metric and what research I can find on some of those metrics if we have some wonders around there.
We have a data person too now that can
do
a little bit of that. Take something off your plate.
So what do you guys think? What do you pulled up Dover Sherborne?
What does it say their mission is?
Well, I'll read it. It says, the Dover Sherborne schools share in the mission to inspire, challenge, and support all students.
I wonder where they got that.
However,
I know they have more.
They have a
have more.
tagline at the end, though, that I think that we are missing, where they say, as they discover and pursue their full potential. They go beyond what we currently have, which I think is something that we need.
But we talked about that, and I agree. And they do have dashboard items there, but that's an example of one of the districts that really, as you look in all of the rating scales or statewide, Dover Sherborne is always there. So.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. Everything that's here is very similar to what we do, and they are one of the best school systems in the country.
Yeah, so are we.
So are we.
That is true.
I was at a meeting the other day, and someone said that was not part of us, And we were sitting there, and I said, could you say that again to the people that are around here? Because everybody says, he says that all the time. And I said, can you say it again? So it's kind of interesting. Because we are.
We are.
It was someone from the Department of Education.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay, so what do you guys think as far as getting some input
Do we want
or
to
output to Christine?
put it on the agenda for next time and just have a short, brainstorm session about that? You can be thinking about that, things that it will look like.
Yeah, or if you want to, search
Or
and
email.
pull from, other state sites or other district sites to see what
Bring some
they
stuff
have.
that you find here.
Would, knowing you have a full plate already,
Right.
and
Yes.
that we appreciate that,
Yes.
As do we, would it be possible for you to just maybe, just after you think about it, maybe just send us a brief email that just said, culturally, in terms of mission, I think we've got one here already. Here are some other school systems you should look to see what they have for a KPI, and then we can investigate it on our own. I just don't know. I just don't know
Yeah,
maybe where to
top of our
point.
head, if we would.
Right.
This is a great one, like Peter had said, Dover, Sherborne. I'm like, exactly, because if I live down there, that's probably a school system I want my kids to go to.
I would agree.
But are there other, maybe 2 or 3 more that have a KPI or
Yeah,
a
I can look.
dashboard that we could go to?
That would be helpful.
That'd be really awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have some
That's
other
good.
ideas.
And we can put it on the next agenda.
Yeah.
The other piece, too, which I know it's not on our agenda, but just wanted to plant a little seed about presenting our summer work at future board meetings. So I don't know if we wanted to, if Amy and I kind of finalize that during an agenda setting meeting, or I know Jerry shared out a lot of the work that we did this summer, and we definitely want to be able to update all of you on that work. So just want to share that piece out. So.
Yeah. We can put
If you
that
have
on.
any input, if you want to share with Amy, we can do it in an agenda setting meeting. But we do have literacy curriculum, math curriculum, 5-8 science curriculum. I don't know if there's anything for full day K. We produced a lot of work last year, not as more was refinement this year. So it's more of, it's not presenting much. It could be more of an update if there's anything you wanted to know about full day K, but we're happy to present at future meetings to share, especially the curriculum piece. I feel like that's an important one to share with all of you. So.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that at agenda setting, but probably plan on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Christine.
Good. Thank you,
As
Christine.
always.
Okay. So this must be something for us to sign, Betty? Department of Education.
There must be if I'm at the table.
Yep. We're almost done.
Okay, almost done, yeah. The document that I'm presenting to you tonight is called, it's the DOE MS-25. So this is just a document that the Department of Education has us do every year at this time to summarize our year end, so our FY16 year. And the reason the MS-25 is that we then also have it in the format that the Department of Revenue wants it to. So it's the same information, but for both departments, state departments. So when we're looking at this, before I really go into it, I just wanted to talk about the food service. So this year, or for FY16, we had tried to get something in the budget that would help us with our food service, but we were not able to do that. But now in FY17, we were able to get something in the budget to help us if there is a shortfall in the food service. And it's about $10,000. This year we had a $23,000 shortfall. We actually, it would have been 10, but for a retirement, which is an unusual situation. So that was the difference there. And I think the $10,000 perhaps is not a bad number to have in your budget each year. Might prove that you might need a little more we've had a lot of difficulty with the new regs and a la cartes being almost obsolete at middle school now, and so it's a little more difficult. Your middle school used to be a very good source of revenue for our food service program, and we were able to actually do extra things for our students with that food service money. But that's we're in the food service area, school nutrition area, but we're not able to do that now. So, given that we have that, we will be Adam will be contacted to ask how the board plans to handle that deficit. It's $23,987.51. So the board will be asked to how they'll handle it. And you really, if it were very small, you could say, well, we project that we'll be fine next year or something. But I don't believe that you can make that money up next year. So I think it would probably be best for the board to now authorize that this money come out of the general fund and be moved to the food service. And further to that, I had a budget transfer in there, and that's right in front of your DOE 25 for that $23,987.51 to, and so that budget transfer is 2016-13. And I didn't put it in your consent agenda because I felt I wanted to just bring out what is going on with your food service and how that program is operating at this time. So I would like to see that happen. Just to give you a little information on that, you do have, and I want to remind everybody that these are unaudited. This is an unaudited statement. The auditors have been in and they've done test work, but we won't see statements until your December board meeting. So at that time, you'll know your actual results when the audit is released. But these are probably very close to what it is. And this is the number, regardless, that you will be using for your taxes, because if there's an adjustment, that adjustment will flow through the following year, if there does have to be an adjustment. So right now, if you do, and this is why I had two iterations of this in here. One is with a food service transfer, if you will, if you do make a motion for that for that budget transfer. So if you do, your fund balance will go from $293,254 down to $269,266. So that's the if you choose to cover that. At some point, it will have to be covered in one way or another, and I think now is probably a time. You do have the money in your surplus, and I think it probably should be used to mitigate that. And then it kind of gives the school nutrition program and your new BA a clean slate to work with.
Does anyone have any questions for Betty?
I'm sorry, Betty, you're saying that I'm looking at the school district profile, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong spot, because I'm trying to find, I see where it says food service and the number looks different than what you just said. Am I looking at this incorrectly? Where you said the amount that we need to approve is what?
The amount of the shortage in the food service is, yes, it's the transfer that we'll need.
23,981.
It's on the budget transfer that's in there, 2016-13. The amount is $23,987.51. Yes, it is. Yes, if you look.
Sorry, 664 shows, if you look at column 2, food service.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
1997.
And like I said, I may have heard you incorrectly. I thought you said that you put two of these in, one if we approve the transfer, what if we don't approve the transfer?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
All right, but the school district summary behind each one under food district has the same dollar amount. So that's why I guess I was a little confused. And wouldn't they be different if we approve the transfer or don't approve the transfer? Or just tell me if I'm looking at it wrong. I might just be looking at it
Page
wrong.
64 and page 81.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking at?
133.97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all I was looking at, is that these amounts would be different depending on whether we approve the transfer or not approve the transfer, but
Yeah,
maybe I'm
seriously.
looking at it wrong.
And no, the expenditures for that, it won't change what our expenditures were. It will change that we didn't have revenue to cover it.
I see. Okay, all right. So I was looking at the wrong end of the equation on that. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we need a motion, Betty?
Yes. Great.
So I'll make a motion to approve the request for budget transfer number 2016-13 in the amount of $22,987.51 from the general fund
To the food service.
Food service.
That's good.
Did
That
you get
covers
that?
everything.
Great.
Very nice.
That was
Very nice.
impressive.
Yeah, she Did you get that? No.
Okay, so
We'll start over.
That's a bummer.
Request to approve the budget transfer number 2016-13 in the amount of $23,097.51 from the general fund to food service.
Set? Is there? Is there a second?
Second. Sorry.
I have it.
All those in favor? Motion passes. So Betty, do we need to sign?
So yes, you do. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information too about the number here of your actual budget surplus at the end of the year. So your fund balance is, as I mentioned, $269,266.74. We had that's made up of. Actually, our expenditures came in under by $346,000, but our revenues were under by $76,784, which I think I mentioned to you last time when we did the forecast that I was looking at our revenues being a little bit of a problem. So it's very tricky for us to determine and forecast our revenue for that tuition from Mount Vernon each year, because it's based on the actual year that's going to happen, and we have to forecast that revenue in September, October timeframe. So we haven't gone into the negative like that before, but this year, I guess, I didn't have quite the right number there. But I was trying to bring it close so you wouldn't have a big surplus due to Mount Vernon. It's a fine line to walk. I don't want you to end up with a surplus because of that. But, I do want to see your revenues covered, so good luck, Adam. So you did end up, because you had underage in your expenditures to cover that. So we're fine. The other thing, it was some Medicare as well, Medicaid revenue. So that's what that is made up of, the portion that's expenditure-driven and the portion that's revenue-driven. And as I said, this document we try to have this ready for the town every year by September 1st, because the town cannot set their tax rate without this, so it's very important that we do it on a timely basis. Now, what I do need from you is a motion to authorize the school board chair, the superintendent of schools, and the school board to sign the document.
Make a motion?
We have to make a motion to allow you guys to sign it? Or do we all?
Oh, everybody's going to sign it.
Oh, okay.
The only person not signing it are the people who put it together.
Which amazes me.
I know. I know.
We say that, it's like, how does that work?
Okay, so, someone make a motion?
I didn't even know where to start with
Jim?
that one.
Make a motion to authorize the superintendent, the Amherst School Board Chair, and the Amherst School Board to sign the authorization document.
The DOE MS-25.
DOE/MS-25 document. Yeah.
Got that tonight?
Okay.
Second? All those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Betty.
Want to sign that?
Yes.
Okay. Right. And then we have one final action, professional nominations, but we're going to go into non-public.
Like
for that.
Jerry and Porter to stay for a few minutes.
Okay.
Everyone else?
So, I need a motion to go into non-public. Go ahead, Galen.
I think it's a roll.
Motion to go into non-public.
Second.